everyone, and welcome to the Australian CFO Show. I'm Adriana Amato, and I am extremely excited to have Linda Archer, who is Head of Finance at MILKRUN, powered by Metro. So thank you, Linda, for joining us today.
Thanks, Adriana. Pleased to be here.
I'm really excited to jump into your story. And I mean, obviously there's been a lot of news around MILKRUN and the Woolworths acquisition. So a quick thank you to our sponsor, so Weel, Australia's leading spend management solution, for bringing us together today. So let's jump straight into it, Linda. Can you tell me a little bit about, your career so far and perhaps any of those maybe pivotal moments that have shaped your path?
Yeah, definitely. So I spent my early years at PwC in an external audit. There I got my CA and I went on this rite of passage stint in the London office, as many people do. And it was wonderful. And after returning to Sydney, I decided to cross over to industry. And that's when I joined the Woolworths internal audit team. And that was 14 years ago. So since then, I've helped transition the closure of masters. I've led finance and operations teams in China for our drinks business. I've supported innovation and transformation across the group. And now I'm leading the finance function for MILKRUN, our on-demand grocery startup. And I think, it's an interesting question when you asked me about the pivotal moments. I really had a good think about this is, I think the first one is my time in an internal audit. It was a really eye-opening experience into the breadth and complexities of running a really large corporation. And especially when you compare that to working at PwC when you're just kind of doing external audit. So I particularly enjoyed reviewing all the non-financial functions like replenishment, supply chain, product development. And it was actually during an audit of our sourcing office in Shanghai and Hong Kong. This was back in 2011 that I really fell in love with the fast-paced, dynamic energy of Asia. And fortuitously, like the head of sourcing became a mentor and a sponsor who many years later would recommend me for an international posting to Shanghai. And that posting was a finance director role in a wine and spirits distribution business that Woolies had recently acquired. And I have to say that was probably the most challenging and rewarding role I've ever had. So to give you some context, I moved my 2-year-old daughter and my mother with me to Shanghai.
Oh my goodness.
Who just had a career change to study medicine, had to stay behind because he didn't want to delay his studies any further. So the number of warnings I got from people going, it's probably not a good idea doing this and so on and so forth. Wow. Anyway, I mean, professionally, it was a huge step up. So initially I was managing 30 people across Hong Kong, China, and Macau. And then eventually that grew to a team of 60 after my remit expanded to operations. And the business itself was going through quite a challenging time, partially the business, partially the economy. And China's just like a very volatile place. And, even though I am Chinese and I can read and write fluently, the culture shock was real. Like it was a really character building experience with many highs and lows. But it also really accelerated my professional growth by years, I think. And what I really loved about China was actually just how digitally advanced and entrepreneurial it was. So I was there in 2016, and by then super apps like WeChat and Alipay pretty much ran every aspect of your life, from taxes to purchasing groceries to investments to banking, everything. No one used cash, not even in the wet markets. Everything was delivered. And the digital ecosystem was just incredible with new businesses popping up all the time. So it was a really exciting place to be in, especially in comparison to the relative stability of Australia. And that's when I decided I really wanted to work in the e-commerce or digital space. And so that kind of brings me to probably the third pivotal moment, which was joining the founders of Jimmy Brings, who are the liquor delivery app. Yeah.
Amazing. I didn't know
them. Sorry?
I didn't realize that you worked with Jimmy Brings.
Yeah, they are. Yep. So the Jimmy Brings founders, they're the ones.
You love quick delivery. You really love quick delivery.
Well, this is
don't like to wait.
Yeah, that's right. So, I mean, Jimmy Brings, the story goes back to they actually were purchased by Endeavour Drinks, which was part of the Woolworths Group at that time before it was split. So they got brought into Woolworths to build a new business called Metro 60 that would deliver groceries in under 60 minutes. So that's actually what MILKRUN started out as. So we were originally Metro 60. And it was funny because, I was a little bit skeptical at first when I met them for, I guess, a casual interview. And it was so casual, and coupled with the fact that Metro 60 was not much more than an idea. I remember asking multiple times, like, how would the economics work? Was this scalable? I think I offended them a little bit. But, I was so drawn to the entrepreneurial spirit and vision. I just had to give it a go. And I'm so glad I did, because it's been like such a wild ride. And I truly feel like I'm working with the best people in the world. And Metro 60 eventually would become MILKRUN.
And what does your role look like at MILKRUN? Because you were saying that you're, I guess, less focused on kind of the finance aspect, perhaps, and more sort of the strategic element about of the business and the stakeholder management. Can you talk a little through that?
Yeah, definitely. So it probably has to go back to the way that Woolworths is set up. So, Woolworths is obviously a huge company. We actually have quite a lot of shared service functions, be it transactions, regarding payments, accounting. There's an accounting team down in South Australia. We have tax departments, external reporting, corporate, you name it. All of those functions are available to support. So in a way, in comparison to a self-contained finance unit, I don't have to do those things myself, nor have a team directly to do that. I can rely on others. And therefore, what that means is the finance team within MILKRUN is very much a strategic commercial role. So my role is really to drive growth for the business. Obviously, there's the basics of having like a P&L balance sheet, making sure numbers are reported correctly, making sure that our general financial control is in good health. But I think more of our role is more of a commercial one. So I've got a commercial focus, partnering with the merch team on, sales, GP, what products we're driving, pricing and promotions, supporting in how should we structure our pricing to kind of get, uplift as well as maintain our customer value proposition, working closely with the ops team on how we best structure our labor model. So, relying on the store teams and rostering. There's a whole world out there around how you optimize labor, as well as marketing. So supporting the marketing teams on like, what kinds of campaigns should we be investing in? How do we optimize customer acquisition, and kind of like trying to help allocate funding to the best places. That's kind of internal, and there's a broader kind of role, which is, within the startup, it's how do you manage the business? But then in facing into Woolworths, it's how do we get funding? How do we prove that we are tracking to where we expect to be? Because after all, Woolworths is funding our growth. So there's probably, it's a unique situation, which is very interesting for a finance professional. I get all the benefits of a startup, being nimble, doing all these fun things, but at the same time, we're in a broader company, and it's very much of a kind of like a VC world of justifying what you are doing.
I was sort of wondering about that. I mean, exactly that. You are a startup, but you are obviously, part of a very stable, wealthy infrastructure. So, can you talk a little bit about that journey from, MILKRUN 1.0 to 2.0 and, the opportunities, but also, a little more about those challenges?
Yeah, definitely. I think I might start off with just how this role is different, like when you're a startup within a bigger corporate. And I think the role that we play is different to what I was saying before. And, where I think about this is there are many advantages to a big company: resources, funding, networks, but then things also move really slowly, complex stakeholder groups to manage, which is inevitable when you've got $64 billion of revenue at stake. And so I think my job was really to navigate that to our advantage. And some of the things that are quite different from a capability perspective is, I think, number one, storytelling. So, for a startup, it's crucial to gain investor support for your vision and your progress against measures of success, both of which lead to funding or no funding. So I think finance plays a really critical role in shaping that narrative. It's particularly important for a startup which generally operates new disruptive business models that others are not familiar with. So my role has been to help others understand. And for example, Woolworths is a retail business. We talk about sales, GP, labor, store costs like rent and electricity. For a digital business, it's more about customer acquisition, cohort retention, conversion, unit economics. So the terminology itself is even different. So in practical terms, this meant a new way of presenting our results to showcase our momentum in a simple and digestible way. Another factor is always keeping an eye on the long-term growth and profitability. So we're always looking 5 years ahead. Because we do this, how does that change our future profitability? How do we get lifetime value out of customers and so on? So it's really selling that story. The other one is carving out our own governance and operating rhythms. So if you think about a huge company, there are so many meetings and governance and approval forums. If we attended every one of those, we would have no one to do the work. And so, the first thing we did was have a management committee attended by senior execs like, the CEO of Woolworths. We have a chief transformation officer, CFO, and so on. So they guide us with strategic decisions at the highest level. And then the second one is we do a quarterly delivery cycle. So that's where we basically set budgets quarterly. And that's really helpful because if you think about, I don't know if you know, but a lot of finance people spend most part of the year on budgets, reforecasting, recutting numbers this way and the other. We deliberately chose not to participate in that just because we did not have the capacity. And that did us a lot of good because it gave us complete autonomy to build the business, and we're only accountable to our quarterly targets, saving us time. But also, if you think about it, with a startup, there's not a lot of known factors. So even if we did all of those activities, we'll probably still get very inaccurate numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also the other thing is knowing when to leverage the group's processes and when to deviate. So, we have a lot of legacy systems in Woolworths, expensive, time-consuming to integrate. Some things we deliberately choose not to integrate with. So give an example, it was going to cost us $1 million to integrate with the promotional systems, money we don't have. So we just came up with some manual workarounds, which works fine. But, there are other really great things like Woolworths really leverages BigQuery. So our digital capabilities are fantastic, and we really wanted to be integrated into that so we can gain all of the insights and digital capabilities. And then I think the final one is how to be a value co-creator and insights generator. So, the beauty of a startup is you get to start from scratch. And I think there's real opportunity to design processes and our business model in a thoughtful and scalable way to create optionality in the future. So this applies to systems and integration, accounting process design, data architecture to unlock digital capabilities. And, it's also a great way to set up the right measures of success for all of our stakeholders because it's not a traditional retail business. So some examples are we designed a new time-based costing methodology for our pickers, which are embedded in store labor. It gives us audit profitability by hour, which then helps us make decisions. And then also an important role is sizing opportunities and size of prizes and then supporting the execution. So we're going to start selling liquor soon. We're looking at pharmacy products. So all of these things are ways in which finance can help drive the business forward.
Can you talk a little more about your relationship with marketing and how you go around, talking through acquisition? And is it sort of a partnership, or are they kind of coming with you with this is what we want to do? Can you break that down a little bit?
Yeah, it's very much a partnership. And I think in a digital business, marketing is actually a very quantitative thing, much more so than a traditional business where they, do campaigns and branding and ads and things like that. So in a digital world, a lot of it is performance based. So, if you think about the campaigns we might do on Meta or Google search ads, it's very numbers driven. And so it's very collaborative in the sense that we would look at retention. So what that means is, you acquire, let's say 100 customers in July. How many of them come back the following month and then the following month and the following month? Because that's what your cost base is. You spend, call it $50 to acquire a customer, that cost is spent. Then you just want them to return more and more frequently, over time. So, we have very good discussions around, what are some things we can do to increase retention. Some examples might be vouchers. Another one that we're working on is everyday rewards. So we integrated with Woolworths. So, we've given campaigns
I do love that feature that you've got everyday rewards. Very happy about that one now.
You're very happy about it?
I'm very happy about that. As a user of MILKRUN, I'm very happy that my rewards card is on there.
That's great to hear, because we also see that retention is so much higher for everyday rewards users. And what that means is generally retention drops off over time because people eventually churn. But with everyday rewards, they actually go up. So it's been like really great to acquire everyday rewards customers because they clearly love the service, and it's like a little flywheel, right? The more you spend, the more points you earn, and there's all these other offers. So it's been great.
Can you talk further then about, MILKRUN, I guess, was a very digitally focused, finance function, perhaps. How did that go joining up with Woolworths, and what was that sort of transformation that occurred in amalgamating the two?
Yeah, so it wasn't really amalgamating. So, and not a lot of people know about this, but Metro was simply Metro 60 rebranded to MILKRUN. So we didn't take over the MILKRUN business. The original MILKRUN business, as you would know it, closed down. And to give you a bit of history, like 2021 was the height of the quick commerce landscape in Australia. There were lots of players like MILKRUN, Voldy, Send, all of whom delivered groceries within 15 minutes using employee drivers. Great service, however, really expensive to operate. And, starting in 2022, all of these players began to close, starting with Send, then Voldy, and finally MILKRUN in April of this year. And the biggest difference was, they ran what we call dark stores, so little kind of storerooms around the city that had employees basically picking the stock and then employees driving the goods. So if you think about that, that's a lot of fixed labor that you need a lot of volume to then fractionalize and make profitable. So that's a key difference between their business model and our business model. Our business model is we have our own standalone app, customers order it, the goods get picked in a Woolworths store by the Woolworths team. So it's not fixed labor sitting there. It's just we're tapping into the people who are already there, and we pay for that on a variable basis. So that makes it a profitable business at like an operating level. What we were struggling with was actually branding. So, Metro 60 probably didn't have the most clear branding. A lot of people confused us with Woolworths or Metro. They weren't quite sure. And so the opportunity really came for us when MILKRUN was closing down. And as you would know, they had developed this cult following for their branding. Everyone who used MILKRUN loved it. So, that's when we decided, hey, we should buy their brand and their customer database. And that's what we did. But we still powered it by the original Metro 60 app in our original business model. So none of that has changed. And that's how Metro 60 became MILKRUN 2.0. MILKRUN 1.0 just no longer exists. So therefore, we didn't really have to transition anything. It was actually a marketing exercise to rebrand all of our assets. So the app, billboards, advertising, all of that sort of stuff. But the operation itself did not change.
You'll be able to answer this, but did that mean that any of the marketing guys stayed, or you not stayed, but you rehired? Or was it?
We didn't rehire anyone from MILKRUN. However, we did get a lot of help from their marketing team, and we still do sometimes with some of our campaigns. But it wasn't like we took on the employees of the original MILKRUN. But definitely, they were fantastic marketers, and a lot of the campaigns you still see today still maintains that tone of voice, which is from the original MILKRUN.
And how does it work? Are you able to leverage the data from the Woolworths Group to sort of help inform the MILKRUN sort of, strategic choices?
Yeah, definitely. I think the beauty of being embedded within Woolworths is a lot of the customer insights that we already have. So this is linked to the everyday rewards. So we know what our customers, by our I mean MILKRUN today, what our customers buy. What kind of segmentation they fall into. We know what the ex old MILKRUN their customers were like, and we know what the general Woolworths customer looks like. So definitely we see there are differences. We're capturing a different part of the market, and that means we can shape our offers accordingly to them, either through the way we market to them or the way that we package our app and the way we communicate to them. So definitely there's a lot of synergies in that.
So interesting. I feel like you've got an amazing position there, and I think really interested to see where you go with it. I guess personally, what's your ideal kind of career journey?
I think, it's certainly been a journey. I knew when I started working at PwC that external audit was probably not for me. So it's almost like I knew what I didn't like and I kept moving towards what I thought I liked. I don't necessarily have an end goal, but I know looking back, what I've consistently moved towards is more and more towards the business side of things, more and more towards the front line.
Yeah.
So if you think about external audit, you're very removed. Internal audit, a little bit more involved. And, big corporation and now a startup, you're very much into the detail and the front line. So I personally really enjoy that. And I enjoy using my understanding of numbers to create value for a business, for a customer, for the team. So I think, being in a startup is sort of my sweet spot at the moment. Who knows what's going to happen later on? Maybe eventually I'd like to run my own business, not sure. But I'm just enjoying what I'm doing at the moment. I like learning. So give me something new and I always enjoy doing that.
I can see you founding a business for sure. I did read an article, I think it might have been on CFO magazine. It was talking about how the CFO is the new CEO. So I reckon, starting a new startup, that might be for you in the next few years.
Yeah, sounds good. How we go.
Thank you so much, Linda. I really enjoyed chatting with you. You're doing an amazing job. I really appreciate the time. So we'll call it off for now, and we'll follow your journey. See you later, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks. See ya.